Good day and welcome back to Elementary 72 Gaming. Now, I'm back again with another Tower of God video, and this time we are going episode 91 to episode 100. Now, there is quite a good flow of incidents in this section. I know for a fact that we're going to get the first taste of Baum's improved power. We're going to see that people are worried, and we're also going to end this off just close to his summoning. I don't think he's actually summoned over to the main game before the end of these 10 chapters. I do know my content is going to lead up to that point because I've read through the story multiple times. I don't have a perfect memory of each episode. So let's continue with the workshop battle. We now have Beta versus Rak and Iwa along with Vespa. At this point, we see that the workshop is wondering why he isn't disposed of, and we see that Miss Sophie is worried about him. Then we see Beta getting ready to fight them, and we see that Ra compresses himself to evade the assault. We see how crazy powerful the ignition weapon is. And we see that they start really playing some heavy fighting techniques in this point. So yeah, then we see the fight is going on. Iwa, Rak, and Vespa are attacking Beta. Then we see that they get the report from Fug that Viol has escaped and he has the needle. And we see that Beta got even more upset and he starts to unleash even more power because he doesn't want Viol to get here and save his friends. We then transfer over to Viol and we see that Viol just got out of the room, and we see that the thorn is completely wrapped behind him. Now, you should understand one thing. The thorn is considered to be a needle, and this is what it looks like in its unwrapped form. I actually forgot to pull up its wrapped form as part of this little sequence. So yeah, we see that it's there and it's just floating. We then see Waryun show up, and then we see that Waryun explained it only looks like that inside its container, and that's because it is inside a container, and that is what they gave Baum originally. So Baum has the container for the thorns, and this says that each time a thorn comes on, it's going to take this particular shape, and eventually when he has all four, the thorn will take its intentional shape. It may not look like this in the end, it may change altogether. Then we see Viol looks at Waryun and gives her a dirty look because she knew about what was going on, and basically we see that she's going to help Viol return to his friends. We then see Wagnan get to the area where he needs to be, where he's going to summon them, and we see that they need to just escape this area immediately. And we see that it ends off with Baum making the declaration that he wants to go back to where he belongs. And that is where episode 91 ends. Obviously, we're going to head up into episode 92. 92, we see the store for Calling Center, or for Team Calling Center. And this is the semi-final arena with Wagnan. We see that Kun told him to go there and turn off all of his communications, and that he needs to get in there and summon Viol. So they have a plan. They're going to get Baum to a item transport area and use that to transport him out of there. Now at the same time, Team Fug destroyed the individual transport area in that area so that they were safe. So we see that Waryun tells them the whole idea is not to fight, just to escape. Then we see that Varagrav and Ron Mai end up cornering Balm and the rest of them. And we see that everybody's wondering what they're going to do. So we see that Varagrav releases his shadow dog with Salt, and we see Viol take on a quick motion to run straight through. We see the Thorn reacting to Viol the moment he uses any type of Shinsu, and we see that Varagrav and Ronmai are totally alert about that there. And we see that they actually are afraid of it. We then see that Varagrav blocks Huryang and Novik, at which point we see that we see that Waryun attacks the light bearer directly, and then Balm busts through her protection and gets through. And we see that they start talking about the fact that Viol should have killed her. If he wasn't so weak-hearted, it would make the escape so easy. Then we see Rafleo show up, and he says that they've destroyed the summoning well. And we see Waryun gets back at him with some quirks. Then we see Wagnan is almost at the chosen location. We see Kun is looking at everything. And we see Wagnan has finally arrived, and Viol keeps running to the summoning area. Finally he enters, and we see Wagnan talking to Viol. So they're finally ready at this point. They just don't have enough points to actually summon him. We then see that Huryang, Novik and Waryun jump down, and they start running to another area. And we see that they're explaining the whole plan on the sidelines. Obviously, I'm not going into the direct flow of the plan. It's something important to understand. I have explained it slightly, but yeah, you have to understand what the plan is. We then see Kun basically getting ready to have Balm pulled back into the same team as him, and we see Wagnan gets attacked by Beta. And that is the end of it, and that is where 92 ends. And we're gonna move on to episode 93. Now you have to understand, this is very important. Wagnan isn't just attacked lightly, he's stabbed through his heart from the back. And this here would kill any regular individual unless they have some type of contract for immortality, which is what we suspect is the situation with Wagnan. Then we see Ronmai keep saying that Waryun committed suicide, and we see that Rafleo basically gets irritated and says she's a guide, she doesn't commit suicide. And they're wondering, how are they planning to summon Viol, and if it's not at the summoning area, then it must be somewhere else. We then see Vespa decompresses as well, and with Rak, Lowry, I believe it's Yiwa is taking flight towards the store at maximum speed. We see that they grab Quattro and also use him to head towards the store, at which point we get the whole thing with Beta stabbing Wagnan. We then see Kun and Balm actually getting upset about it, or Viol, and we see that Beta just throws him to the ground. We then see Viol get angry with Beta because he's hurting his friends. We then see Rock throw his spear to intercept Beta as he's about to kill Viol. And then we see Laure is woken up and is told to interfere with Beta. We then see that everybody else is heading over to the area where they need to be. We see that they're heading in to go and find the spearhead of the other team. They need to kill the spearhead of Team Snake so they can summon Viol. Then we see that Refleo played a strategy with their other members of FUG, so they would root Team Snake from the arena so that no more points could be given to Team Sweet and Sour, so that they couldn't win the game. And we see that Refleo doesn't want to let him escape no matter what. He's really getting anxious. And we see Laure explains that there's a parasite inside the head of Beta. They just need to get rid of it and he wouldn't be an official participant anymore. Then we see that Laure says he doesn't want to interfere with Beta because he'll get worked up and then they're going to have a tough time. And we see Shibisu say, just bite him and he'll do whatever is necessary. We then see Laure do exactly what he's told to do, and he shakes up the head of the other team, the parasite, and causes it to be spewed out by Beta. Immediately when that happens, we see that everybody runs to try and kick it, and we see that Beta grabs it and realizes its weakness, and he decides he's not going to do anything crazy like that to stop it. At this point, we see Eva launches a flame at it and destroys the parasite instantly, and that gives them the points they need to reach 500,000 points. Then we see Wagner jumps straight to the summoning portal and he calls in for Jovial Grace, and it basically says he will be summoned to this location soon. That ends episode 93. So it looks like I was wrong. He's going to be summoned in the middle of this. Then we get Rak grab Wagner and he decompresses again, and he says for 5 minutes they just have to keep up this fight to ensure that Viol gets here. We then see that Team Snake withdrew from the game, and Team Sweet and Sour got caught the spearhead of the other enemy. So that basically turns this into the semi-final instantly, because at this point it's just Shibisu's team versus Kun's team. We see Ayo is trying to think up something to do to actually delay things because he doesn't want things to get out of hand. So we see Shibisu is looking at things and he's trying to figure out what's going on. We see that Vespa is told to summon Enderossi. Then we see that the fight continues with Beta and the regulars. It's quite heated. Laure is one of the main people in this fight. He's using his wave control ability to actually shift things around. And we see Beta using Diagnosis to try and attack people. It's a partial ignition of his ignition weapon, and they have to stop him from destroying the arena. So we see that craziness is being pulled on. Then we see Laure use a Eurasia style Shinsu control skill, and he uses it to break apart the ignition that he started. Then we see him use another partial ignition, and we see that he's intending to destroy the entire summoning area so that they can't call Viol. Then we see Beta is getting overexcited, and we see Miss Sophia arrives to try and take him down, and they basically tell Beta to come back. He needs his medicine, and that he's taking things out on the wrong people. We then see that he's going more crazy, and we see that Kun decides to look at his stuff, and he realizes that it's only Shibisu versus himself, and he instantly turns on his lighthouse and he tells Shibisu to give up the game right now. They have to summon Balm right away. And we see as they attack, the whole store gets crushed and a big white light appears from inside it. And the game has ended, so the loading instantly completed and the summoning was finished. And they now have Jovial Grace, a part of Team Sweet and Sour, his original team, and that is where episode 94 ends. So we get to episode 95. We see Viol is in the arena with Beta, and we see that Beta is looking at him really scared. We see that everybody is now calling him Balm again, and we see that everybody is happy to see him, and we see Beta is really angry at him. Then we see Balm take up a fighting stance, and he goes straight at Beta, and we see that even with Ignition, he isn't really strong enough to actually beat Balm, and we see that Balm is actually fighting him quite well. And we see how Beta says that he's lost everything because of Balm, and after enduring all of his tests and coming out as a weapon, he had to kill those who he survived with, just so that he could be granted one thing, and that is freedom. And that too was a lie, because he still isn't granted freedom. So he then does his partial ignition again, and he starts attacking all crazy. And you see that Balm basically says you need to protect the others, he'll take care of this here. And he uses multiple Shinsu styles from those he's learned from. Hansang Yu style basically is the first one he goes for, which is basically a half family style, and they are more of battle engineers. So you should no, not Hansang Yu, sorry. Jinsang Ha styles are battle engineer style, Hansang Yu are wave controller and anima style attacks. So you have to understand that these are crazy things. And we see Balm really make an impact on Beta quite quickly. He starts hitting him really hard. And we see he uses the floral butterfly piercing technique on Beta. And we see Balm explain that Beta hates him not because he wants revenge on him, but because he needs someone to hate. And then we see that's the end of 95. We head on to episode 96. Now Balm is heading closer and closer to this type of a form. This is very important to understand. And we see Beta basically saying that Viol is arrogant and Balm is arrogant, whichever way you want to say it. And we see that they go more crazy, and Beta is going to go at Viol again. And as he starts rearing up and going at it, and we see Viol says, "You need to stop. Your body has reached its limit. If you continue this fight, will only bring misfortune to both of us." And we see that Beta decides to go at it a little bit more, at which point Balm instantly attacks him. And we see Beta explains that if Balm ignites that needle on his back, Beta wouldn't be able to beat him even if he was at all the power. And we see Beta become really, really bitter, as he says he has the friend, he has the friends, he has freedom, he has woman, he has everything. Congratulations. And he basically punches Viol. And we see Beta said he had everything taken from him, and that everything was taken from him by Viol. And then we see Bam says that these are his friends. He was trapped in darkness for a long time where he was born, and he followed his only light and came into the tower. And all the people he met, the memories they shared, everything was a first for him, and they're precious to him. He tried so hard to protect them, and basically he continues going on, and that's why they are his. Then we see that Sophie says that the experiments that were started on Beta had nothing to do with Viol. They began after those experiments ended, and they explained that it was the Living Ignition project this time was Sophie's, and that she did this here for her own personal reasons. It wasn't to use them, it was actually to help them. At this point, we see the rest of the members of the workshop decide they want to dispose of Beta immediately. And we see that the workshop now is interfering with them, and we see Bam and Quattro start fighting back, and we see that the workshop members get taken down quite quickly, and Liroro shows up in the middle of all of this, and there we have it. Things are really crazy. We see that things are totally out of hand. We see Varagrav is basically being told he's going to have to fight them in the final. We see that Rafleo is also really frustrated. Him and Casino manage to apprehend Huryang, Huariyun, and Novik, and they explain that this is going to be the last battle for Viol. That's where 96 ends, and we end up with episode 97. And we see that Casino betrayed Ilma with the tracking device in his pocket. That's how they managed to catch him. And we see that Rafleo asks what was Casino's real reason for doing this here. Then we see Rafleo looking down on Huariyun, and he's going to end up using her for a plot for the final part. Then we see 4 years ago what happened between Kun and Shibisu, where he explains that he needs to protect the team from Rachel and all of this, and we see that he's explaining that this is like a long nightmare, and not a long nightmare, basically explains that this is like a long time dream, that they'll be able to climb up the tower again together. And we see that Rak is brought into this here immediately when they flash back to the regular, and they say it's like they woke up from a long nightmare. They finally glad they have Bam back with them. We see Shibisu and Hats are also quite happy to see Bam again. All the others are gathering around. Then we see Iwa is actually jealous of the fact that Bam is happy with other people besides her. Then we see that they've taken Wagnan into a medical capsule, and we see that Beta is being treated as well, despite everything that has happened to him. We see Masofi is grabbing him and moving away. Then we see Yua offered to buy Rak a new spear, since they're in the store at the moment. So we see that Kun is a little bit worried because they've just turned everybody into their enemies. There's Fug rankers all over the Archimedes. They in the middle of the trap. The workshop is turned against them. They don't know what to do. At this point, Liroro explains that he's here and that the Archimedes has a slight problem. Plus, he is here from another organization altogether to help them. Then we see Madarako is realizing that they postponed the finals. We see that Hatzling is actually on board the ship, and he is the one who's about to get all the regulars out of here so that they are safe from all the craziness that's about to unfold. So we see that everybody's getting ready to get out, and at this point we see that Rafleo decides he's going to start the finale without proper authentication, so we end 97 there. We'll end up on episode 98 in a second. This is really confusing to explain because there's not enough of motion to explain what's going on. There's more words, and then I can explain everything that happened in the end quite quickly. So we see Madurako is running around on the Archimedes, not running around, he's watching everything that's going down on the Archimedes, and he decides that he's going to make a move, and they basically say they have a messenger on the Archimedes, at which point we end up flashing back to everybody in the tournament. We see that Rak got the item, the Mad Shocker. It's a special spear. We see that Balm is the winning prize of the tournament and he's already been summoned. So they don't have any reason to really stay. They just have to escape before the Pug rankers make a move. At this point, Little Ro announces that he's here with Wulayuk's song helping them out. Then we see that they announced that Balm met Yurik a few years ago, and everybody is like, you met the strongest guy in the tower. So at this point we see that Balm receives a call from Hwaryun, at which point Rafleo explains that she's a hostage. And that he's going to kill her if he doesn't show up and save her. And he realizes that this is a weakness for Balm, that he likes to protect his friends, and that's what they've been using against him. And he explains that he'll kill her in the most painful way possible for just not her but the other friends that he left behind. So basically he says that he's waiting at the place where the thorn was, so Viol has a chance to arrive there and basically make an action. We see that Kun analyzes it and he realizes even if he saves Hwaryun, Pug's rankers will be all over the island by the time it's time for them to get away, and they'll all eventually have to deal with Pug. Then we see Balm explain he'll go no matter what. This is a problem he has to take care of, and that he can't allow people to die. Then we see Kun basically give in and he says 3 of them will go and rescue Hwaryun, the rest of them can go save the other 2. That's Novik and Huryang. So Little Rose says that they may have up to a 30-minute window to get everything done. It's a very narrow window, but they have to do it in that time. So everybody has to organize and get done with this here as fast as possible. Then we see Enderossi arrive on the field with huts, and she's in a really upset mood, and she ends up taking on Paragraph. And he was expecting to take on Viol, and that is where episode 98 ends, and we'll end up on episode 99. Now, Enderossi is quite powerful, and this just being said, I would say that she and Balm would have a very, very difficult fight if they went all out. I think she'd lose to Balm easily. So yeah, that's just the reality. Then we see Viol and Kun arrive at the place where the thorn was, and we see that fight is about to be taken on once they enter into the final room. We then see Enderossi and Paragraph also about to cross paths. All of this is set in motion, and then we finally see Hwaryun has been beaten badly and she's already bleeding. At which point we see that Little Ro got everybody else onto the flying ship that they have. Everybody is there and getting ready. We see that Hatsling is told that they need to give him 30 minutes, or is it Quant? I'm not 100% sure. I think Quant is with Liroro on the ship. And we see that everybody is starting to make a move, and everybody is starting to get taken to the right spots. We see that Beta is being moved up with the rest of the others. And we see that Viol actually brings Masofi back and explains that she didn't fail completely. She made Ilma and Cassino really happy just by giving them names, and that she is achieving something at the end of the day. Then we see Beta explain that Cassino is the one who led him down this path. He's the one who released him and gave him the information. And we see that Cassino is taking a container to capture Emily. Then we see Under Rossi basically explains that Viol is her boyfriend and they're gonna elope. And we see that Varagrav is getting ready to fight Under Rossi. At which point the whole fight starts taking off with Varagrav versus Under Rossi. We then see Wari Yun and the bomb situation, and we see that Rafleo decides to take him on directly. Now, you have to understand that Rafleo is special in some way. One of the servants of Karaka is something Shadow, and he's a ranker, and he's given a portion of his power over to Rafleo so that he can use it. I think it might even be the elder in charge of Karaka. But anyway, this is the end of episode 99, and we end up in episode 100. We then see Rafleo get into position with his weapon, and we see that Rafleo is burning like he's on fire, like he's a piece of charcoal which has been ignited. Then we see the fight erupts at this point. We see Under Rossi is fighting Varagrav, and Varagrav's defense is attacking her every time she assaults him. And she's having a tough time because she has to fight two things all at once. And we see that he's the result of bloodlines of the great families being mixed together, and with the blood Tamara added to it, he now has a very powerful defense, and he has a very powerful counter, like I've been saying all this time. So Varagrav is even tougher than he was before the tournament started, before the workshop battle. And the fact that this is going to be very difficult for Under Rossi, because she can't just crush an enemy with overwhelming strength this time. She has to think of how to play against it. We then see that the rest of the regulars are all searching for the last two hostages, and we see that Balmkun and Rak are fighting Rafleo, and he's gotten really crazy. And his power has really elevated. He's not just like an E rank regular anymore, and you see that he's a shadow of Lord Pokan. And we see that Pokan is one of the executives of Pug. So yeah, we see that with this power given to him, he's temporarily as powerful as a B rank regular. We then see that Lord Poken's ability is something that goes around the regular flow of Shinsu, so it ends up being something crazy. But anyway, in this fight we see Balmkun and Rak keep going at him, and then we see he starts unleashing these shadow powers, and he goes the second shadow, full moon shadow, and we see that Kun, Rak and Balm are really struggling. And that is where episode 100 ends. Now, you need to understand a lot of what was going on in this. It's not really a massive covering of time. It's actually a very, very small period covered with a lot of tiny events. That's what's making up this portion of the story. It's what's making it so crazy. It really is very important in the overall flow of what is about to happen in the tower. So what you have to understand is, in this little section, we find out that Casino is behind making sure that Balm was captured. He is responsible for the chaos that erupted on this side. That's because Casino is actually part of a team with Rachel. Now, this is going to come out later, but as I said, I can't discuss things ahead of time. He's in a team with Rachel, and they part of a team from Fug, and what they have decided is they're going to use Emily as a weapon. So they have an ignition weapon to use of their own that's going to give them a massive amount of power, so that Rachel can go up to another place along the Hell train and retrieve power for herself, so that she can become the chosen one. So she intended to go and pick up a piece of the thorn. She didn't know that a piece of the thorn was in the section. If she did, she most probably knew that she couldn't get it because of how many rankers were going to be around, and it would be impossible to touch it. So she planned other ways around all of this here. Remember, she's been doing a lot of sneaky things. She basically betrayed Kun already, and she has her own little weird team which she has set up. And besides that, there we then get to the next part with Beta. Beta was twisted by Casino, and the way he was twisted was basically he tried to explain to Beta why the experiment happened, and he actually falsely led Beta to believe that the experiment was purely done for the sake of Balm. Now, obviously, part of this experiment was for the sake of Balm, but it isn't 100% true that everything that happened to them was because of Balm. The things which happened to him was actually because of Miss Sophie. Now, Miss Sophie was an orphan from the tower, and she decided that because she managed to get a good start for herself in life, she was going to help other orphans. So she came up with the living ignition idea that she could turn an ordinary person into a living ignition weapon, not just people who are spectacular like Ilma and Casino. And that was her whole idea. Kind of crazy, kind of outside of the orthodox, but that is what she decided to do, and that is how things went down on that part. Then we have Refleo, and when he realized he couldn't get Balm to come back the easy way, he decided to play dirty and use a hostage. That's because all of Fug knows the easiest way to trap Balm is to hold a hostage over him. It's his number one weakness. He has shown that weakness over and over again too many times. They just have to take advantage of it and they'll win. So yeah, that is exactly what happened, and that leads down to the fight. They broke up the team into three. The one set was to take on Varagrav because Varagrav was very dangerous, and Balm could beat him, yes, but if he had to team up with Reflejo, Balm was on the negative because he had two very powerful individuals against one, and that would be another disaster. So that is why they did what they did in this whole section. We then see that Kun, Rak, and Balm decide to go and retrieve Huaruyun. Shibisu and the rest of his team decide to go hunting for Novik and Huryang. That is going to be another whole situation at the end. We then see that Leraro is also planning to get them all out of there. They have a 30-minute window at the best to get out of there, and once they reach that window, they'll most probably be overrun by Fug rankers, and even Hatzling doesn't know if he can handle all of their rankers because there's high rankers amongst them. This could become a real heavy fight, and he doesn't know whether he has the power directly to take on this many people. So that is the whole situation that erupted at this point. And we then end off everything with the fight starting. We then find out that Refleo is being augmented by that shadow ability from Lord Polk, who is one of the executives of Fug. So we know that one of the high rankers in Fug is actually helping out with this whole situation. It makes things a little bit more crazy, and things will turn around later once all of this is over and we end up in season 3. Once Karaka joins the team with Balm, that's when things start to turn on their head and things turn differently in terms of how everything is going to play out in the end. So I hope that you all do enjoy, and I will catch you all in the next episode where we will get a finale to these fights and we will get a big dose of info on what's going on. That will be episode 100 to 110, 101 to 110. See you all then and have a good day.